Welcome to the Infinity Loop Group. I'm Riley.
I'm Krista.
Now, we just want to thank you so much for joining us on this journey. We are stepping into part 2 of this book, Building the Container, Connection, Awareness, and Inquiry. This is where we move away from the stories and move much more into the tools of integration. How do these lessons be applied to our life for change and connection? Again, thank you so much for joining us. Please share, like, subscribe. Only together can we connect and share these messages with more and more people. Remember the aspen. We love the aspen because it is such a wonderful metaphor and representation of what we are trying to create here with honoring everyone's individual aspect that they can bring. Everyone is their unique star, but at the end, at the root of everything, we are all connected. We are all one being, that we are all, I believe, an extension of the divine, and I think the aspen is just a wonderful metaphor for that. So remember the aspen. I don't need that thought to feel separate, superior, or important. Richard Rohr. The ability to identify thoughts that are not serving us, I think, is one of the first steps of really taking charge of your life and being responsible. Are you the conductor to your life, or someone else pulling the strings?
And that teaching is so smart to realize, because the ego, spiritual standpoint, it's always separate. It's always needing to be superior, inferior, and important because it is intrinsically insecure because it's never enough. That's why we have a whole self.
Right. And so then the healthy separation is discernment, right? And so that's the healthy separation. And then the healthy connection is kind of acknowledging someone's shortcomings and still loving them as yourself.
Seeing their humanity and their divinity.
All in one.
The aspen is believed to be the largest living organism on our planet. Because the roots of the aspen tree are all connected, a forest of aspen is one big organism. When we're not aware of our oneness in this moment, we feel separate and so on edge with our frustration. We're only aware of all the ways we're not them. This keeps us in the first glance, as Rohr teaches, that's always competing, comparing, criticizing, conspiring, condemning. But when we look again, the second look, respect, we see our magnificent friends in a new way. When we remember that underneath it all, we're all one, we tap into a power so much larger than ourselves and an awareness and intelligence that opens up the field to a spectacular landscape full of possibilities. Lots of people don't believe we're one underneath it all, but if we dig deeper, we cannot deny the fact. Even though I'm not you, I'm not other than you either. That's how James Finley likes to describe it. It's a mystery that only can be experienced when we decide to consider it may be true. I had the great fortune to live amidst these trees when I lived in the town named after them during some pivotal years of my childhood. Even though my home life was always quaking, there was a strength I felt being near these trees. Maybe it's because they're a glorious metaphor for we humans, a reminder we can't get enough of. In our fragility, we may feel like quaking aspens, but deep down we're grounded in life that's so much bigger than we realize. That life is in our connection to everyone and everything. And that makes us powerful indeed. When you look out at the world, look again and see if you don't feel a strength through connection to others and a safety in knowing that we are all one. Remember the aspen.
And I think that is such a great emphasis on the importance of family and friends, right? In these connections that we are building. In modern Western society, it's so much about the individual. And I feel like we're having this great pushback, as we're having the loneliness crisis, we're having this separation crisis, that really our strength is in our unity, is in our connections, is in our ability to look back and see ourselves in our family members, see ourselves in our friends, see ourselves in the stranger. Really, because then when you see yourself in that stranger, you then start building a deeper connection, which creates a deeper interaction with these people, which changes the world. It is the slow, small things that make the biggest change.
Carl Jung says, love is seeing yourself in another.
So remembering the Aspen reflection questions, even though I am not you, I am not other than you either. And how does the metaphor of the aspen help you be aware of the connection to every other being underneath it all? How does that awareness help you step into the infinity loop? And I think it's just the importance of the metaphor for the visual representation for the memory. It's kind of like the meme thing that we were listening to, of how a meme is so powerful because it is a very complex, deep message and meaning that is able to be simplified into either a simple picture or a few words. And I think that is ultimately our goal with our metaphors, is to create something that you can touch into to reconnect with the deeper message and meaning with the meme or metaphor.
And you came up with our meme.
The infinity loop goal or meme is to change our communication style from projection to connection. The aspen is a great representation, but there are many wonderful representations to this. And so it's kind of whatever is able to resonate with you and click. The mushrooms are a great one. I think a field of sunflowers or a field of any kind of one fruit or flower, or I think is also just wonderful examples and visualizations of this connection that we all have.
Yeah. It just, the aspens, the uniqueness of how they're all, the
and
way
how
they're interconnected.
they look
like
so
mushrooms.
separate, and they look so separate.
And they look so frail.
Right. How is it remembering the aspen different than you feeling of being separate, superior, and important? How do the two energies feel different in your heart, body, and mind? So it's as soon as you are feeling that separateness that isn't serving you, right? This isn't discernment.
The quaking aspen.
Right. This is you becoming fearful because of your separation. This is you understanding your lack of control and trying to force your control.
Or doing all your projecting your own shadow and badness, quote unquote, on the other person, forgetting that you have a red pouch and you may be no different than that other person, just maybe not in this moment. You're not the one behaving badly, right? So it's all of that can create that separateness because the ego is constantly needing to feel okay about itself.
Yeah, and I think it's when we go back to the metaphor, it's a tool of grounding ourselves. Mm-hmm. It's another way.
Grounding ourselves in the truth, the deeper truth. Our experience, maybe we're quaking, but the deeper truth is we are, that root system that is connected to the whole world.
Right. It's something's triggering us to make us feel separate, superior, and we're quaking. And usually when we're quaking, we're in restricted awareness. So we are our emotions are raging or racing around in us. And instead of having our old reaction, which would have been very defensive of the ego self, we tap into our roots, which has the abundance of love, and it eliminates the fear because you are connected to the divine and the bigger picture of things. You aren't stuck in that moment needing to defend your separateness. Mm-hmm. So our next chapter is Sawubona, to enhance connection. So this is, again, a phrase we really love to use because it's a South African term that is referring to hello. And it is much more than the Western hello, which is in a lot of ways dismissive or passive.
Rote.
Yeah.
Rote. It's just,
hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Right.
It means nothing.
It's almost trying to move things along, where Sawubona is very much, I see you. Right? It's that true acknowledgement of someone's presence and divineness. When you look at someone with so much love and compassion, when you create a safe container to hold their good, their bad, and their ugly, they move more into the good, the true, and the beautiful. Chris Divorce. And yeah, I would say from my own experience, when someone is emotionally charged, when you are able to hold that space and not get emotionally charged with them, but hold that grace and allow them to wrestle with their emotions and not get a reaction out of you, but just be supportive in their process, I think is just a wonderful version of seeing someone that can really take them out of their unhelpful explosion
or constriction.
Right, constriction. And
or
really,
story they're telling themselves, or separateness.
And really can slow things down and allow them to open up and be more loving and see the connection, because you are creating the connection by just holding that space.
Mm-hmm. Transformed people transform people. Loving well is the most powerful force for growth, healing, and transformation. May we mirror with unconditional love. Sawubona is a Zulu South African greeting used with far more depth and connection than our Western hello that we often mindlessly greet one another. Sawubona means I see you. I see your humanity, your divinity, your respect. I make a place for you in this world. Shikona is the reply that is used, meaning, I am here. I am more fully here because you see me. When we give great Sawubona, we're present and connected with the other in front of us. I teach this in every company I've consulted with. It's always a powerful tool to help us step into more presence, awareness, connection, and energy.
And I want to emphasize how much I've seen this in my own life. And I think as you apply this to your life, you'll start seeing it more. Because of technology and because of the crazy life we live, it's so easy for us to become separate from what we are doing in the everyday life. You know, our brains are running away with all these stories of what the world is doing and how we're interacting with it, that even when you say hello so quickly, people's response is another hello. And because it's not an engaging Sawubona, they're able to still stay in their head and they are separate from the engagement right here. But when you really see someone, you will see their consciousness come back to this moment and become present with you. And I've noticed it in how much people become grateful that you are able to bring them into the present moment by just being more present yourself.
It changes people, cultures, and customers. You know, it's interesting because we do customer service and sales training, and we always talk about, you need to use the phrase Sawubona. It's just, did you give great Sawubona? And it's that ability, we kind of go around rating everyone's customer service. And we go, yeah, they got no Sawubona training there. Like, we could really help them with some Sawubona training. You know, they're a little rote, like, wow.
I mean, the amount of hostesses at restaurants that feel irritated that you want a table is mind-boggling.
In Santa Barbara.
I mean, you're supposed to be paying a high-end experience, and these people can't teach the people that are supposed to greet you how to greet you.
Yeah.
And it's just wild.
And I'm just thinking about all the people that I trained on phones, and I would teach them when they were exhausted, you actually lean deep. You don't pull back. You lean deeper into connection, deeper into investment, deeper into being present, deeper into Sawubona. And because of the way we are wired, you know, as Aspen, we our neurotransmitters we get re-energized by seeing somebody, and then they see you back, and then now you're in the infinity loop dance, and that is the energizing field.
Well, our divine energy does not come from outside of ourselves, but it comes from our connection to others.
That's it, man.
And so when you're feeling super tired, that's the more reason to dive into the connection of others, because you are not going to get the energy from yourself. You are going to get it from the divine and from connecting to others.
So good, so good. Some thoughts that are present in Sawubona that lead to the depth of the greeting are, why are we here at the same time? What is this moment in time giving us? Giving to the other what's needed for this moment in life to be enhanced. How do I have to be in order for you to be free? You tell me, and I will explore that possibility. It's a type of agreement we need in order to exercise freedom. It's interesting how much this is about freedom. We can't do it out of self-interest. Freedom must be a mutual gift from one human being to another. If I limit one person's freedom, I limit my own. That's from the beginning of the book. What I do to another, I do to myself. That's the infinity loop. Freedom to be present with another. If we meditate on these in regards to specific relationships, we may see how to be more present, open-hearted, and aware. They're not easy thoughts to digest, but Sawubona is a slowing down by nature. That's what you had said, how the hello is just almost like moving things along. Hello, how are you? Versus the Sawubona is the slowing down by nature to actually see someone that allows them to feel seen. When we slow down, we bring to mind some of these inherent intentions into the interaction. We build connection, empathy, and community by first seeing people. When we see someone truly, we realize we are connected. We see their beauty, their humanity, their divinity. We might just fall in love with everyone we meet.
And I think that's the goal.
That's the goal, and I know what that feels like when you are falling in love with everybody, because you are so deeply seeing them. Well, and their soul.
You're
and the connection is so deep. The connection is so deep.
And it can happen so quickly.
So quickly.
By just becoming present and acknowledging their presence.
Mm-hmm. Giving Sawubona is what releases our powerful neurochemicals to flood our system. When we're connected and aware, we experience that abundance in the present moment. By being present, we lack nothing. Because being present is the only place that you can experience the true self. And in the true self, there is nothing lacking.
Well, and isn't it the only thing that really exists?
It's the only thing that exists. And that,
right? And the divine moment. There is no future. There is no past. There is right now.
There
and
is
how
right
you
now.
deal with it.
Yeah. Just this, and we have everything we need in this moment and this moment and this moment. And that's the connection to the divine love that's everything we need, that we seek in the material or another human. What if we gave great Sawubona to every person we encountered? Not only would we all have happy mirror neurons, but we might just change the world.
So we love our reflection questions. And so one of them comes right up. What will you do differently to give Sawubona? And I think it's amazing how quickly something as simple as putting a different energy behind your hellos, right? Really think about acknowledging this person's presence. Maybe you try and look in their eyes, or you take a breath maybe before you say hello instead of being in a rush. Whatever tool you use to help you realize the importance of when you're saying hello, that it is not a simple hello, but an acknowledgement of someone's being. And I think weirdly, men have this weird way of doing it non-verbally, and it's the head nod, the universal acknowledgement of someone's presence, of like, hey, I'm walking past another man in this planet. We used to battle each other, right? And you used to take my life. And instead of that, we've moved into a more civilized society, but we still need to have the presence of acknowledgement. And I think that is a level of respect that men just tend to show each other with the head nod. And I think we can take that into the next stage and really use that of being present with each other.
When you go, how do you greet someone with Sawubona? Is for me, it's like I visually see myself stepping into the infinity loop, and that like takes the second look, and that I am connected to them. And you take that moment and that, because that's the secure self, you don't need to look upon them as competition or judgment or somehow use them to make your ego feel better about itself. It's just, it feels better to feel the connection. To feel the infinite field of love that I feel by looking upon them with a divine gaze.
The more you just are in the present, like present moment and being present, the more the connection just kind of happens naturally. You start feeling just more and more connected with the people around you because you are seeing them for who they are in that moment. You aren't playing a story out in your head because you are just trying to be in the present.
And I'd say that's very much divine feminine energy too, because it's showing up and making space and seeing them instead of having any kind of agenda of needing to teach them, needing to think this, being in the ego mind. It's like, wow.
Not needing to be a leader, not needing to be
a teacher.
Right. It's no. The role you play is acknowledging someone's divineness by being in the present moment and showing that Sawubona to them. Amen. All right, the last chapter that we are going to go over, the last tool that we are going to apply in this podcast is the second look. I know we've talked about this a lot, the importance of respect, to take the second look. Do you respect someone enough to not override their experience and ask the questions? And when you are triggered, to not respond from your triggeredness, but respect them and take a second look. Not taking the second look is just our egos wanting to feel big because we are under the illusion we are nothing more than our egos. Our true selves can take the second look all day long. Christophorus. And so that's when you're in the seeing yourself as an individual and not seeing yourself connected to the divine, it is easy to feel the need to protect yourself because you aren't connected to the divine, which is where your strength truly comes from.
Protecting ourselves truly in a very unhealthy way. Yeah.
Well, I guess it wouldn't even be truly protecting ourselves, but
protecting our egos in our fragile egos.
Or our fake persona, or our, or our real persona.
Our fragile, Respect, re-look. The second look. The first look is almost always critical, judgmental, compete, compare, conflict, conspire, canceling out all contrary data, finally condemn. It results in the initial reaction almost always being a no. It's stuck in either or model. It's more aware of the boundaries, being separate, superior, important, feeling threatened, defending, holding its ground. Your world keeps getting smaller. You feel constricted. When you start with no, you hardly ever get back to yes. We're thinking separately, not open to being influenced. We're stuck in our own small negative story. Work is stressful, emotionally draining, and not fun. It's knee-jerk, hidden, protecting, suspicious. It's not bad. It just doesn't go far enough. Because there's times to be suspicious. There's a time.
The healthy discernment.
Yeah, but it just doesn't go far enough. We get stuck in that. The second look is open, makes space for the other's point of view, open to being influenced, listening, asking questions, suspending judgment. Starts with a yes, even though no may come later as the appropriate response. It comes from a place of awareness and balanced reflection. It's transparent, open, and trusting. Your world gets bigger, more options. Effective solutions come intuitively and more easily. Everyone's talent and contributions are recognized. We expand our capacity to learn. Problems stay solved. We're thinking together. We get more done. Work is less drama, more energizing, productive, and more fun.
When we're going over this, what was really coming to mind is a conversation I had recently with a younger man who was asking for just my guidance in the world that we live in today. And we were talking about really more morality and what is right or wrong. And I was really emphasizing how I believe we are moving into an age, and I believe the nuance of kind of like everything is the both and now. I really don't, the more I dive into this message, the more it really resonates with me. You can take kind of the worst things in human history and can create a story of where they're both good and bad, right? War, some of the most awful things that have ever happened. And there's something we never want to promote, but they are a part of life. They are a tool that has gotten us to progress in different directions. There really is this both and in almost everything. Obviously, I think people can try and take that to the extremes of something evil like rape and things like that. But even if we're truly honest with ourselves of understanding not that one act in itself is good, but that there is this, even the person doing the act isn't divinely bad, because there is so much corruption that has happened for that person to make it to that space, because no one is one action that they do. They are this both and creature.
So it's almost like the non-dual. It's the contemplative mind that can. Right.
I mean, if you're always going to the bigger picture, you will always have more information that will give you compassion for people doing the most horrific things. It's not that you justify those things, it's that you have the bigger picture to understand that things aren't ever really black and white. There is a goal of creating the world a more light and positive place, but I don't believe labeling things as good and bad really gets us to that place.
Interesting conversations we'll be having.
And I think as you jump right in, this is kind of the emphasis of being curious, right? Not blocking things out of, no, that's bad, or no, that's good, so I need to accept it all, right? Because so often we label something as good, and that is even what corrupts us even more.
I love where you're going. Because it's exactly right. If the infinity loop model is a developmental model, in an infinity loop couple, you're not going, now I'm going to be the teacher. It's just a natural extension of having a development model that is always trying to raise your level of awareness and the other person's by you even co-regulating them, by you being so connected and grounded. You can help the other person. By you being curious, it helps them question their thoughts.
Right. Your questions that you ask when you are in the infinity loop isn't just for you. It's to really allow that other person to wrestle with their thoughts and communicate them in a more clear, concise way that allows them to maybe even question their thoughts and where they're coming from, because you are asking these questions that are stimulating the search for truth, right? Because ultimately that is the reason why we are talking in general to anyone is to understand that this reality is a collective reality and we can never understand it by ourselves but together.
Right. And so what you were saying about the right or wrong is when we are in judgment and we have judged their behavior as bad and we are judging them as bad, we are in critical and we are not in curious. We are not going, I'm wondering why why did that happen? What's going on?
And when we are judging, we are acting as if we have all the information so that we are able to make a judgment. And really, we should be more curious because there is always more information for us to make a better understanding, because our goal shouldn't be of judgment, but to be more of understanding.
That's the fighting. It's like when it says not open to being influenced, we are very self-sealed in our certitude and assuming that we have all the answers. So be curious, inquire the other's point of view. This is being open. What leads you to that conclusion? What data can you bring to illustrate that? This works so good. Just did it with a couple. And, he was selecting one piece of data that made him feel really insecure. And I was teaching to go, yes, this is a different way you can look at what I'm saying, but let's look at all these other data points that actually go against all of that and affirm everything that I'm telling you. And he melted. He just went, oh, right, I am loved. Oh, right, everything is good. I get it now. He couldn't argue with that by just going, let's look at the data.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of how many people are living in fear. And if you really looked at whatever you're afraid of and went to the questions and started asking, where is this data true? Where's the disconfirming data? Where's the data that is showing me that being afraid of this isn't serving me or isn't helping me solve this problem? If it is an actual problem that needs to be addressed, you being in fear isn't helping you. Just the natural tool of curiosity that will shatter fear.
Yeah, and it's how they all kind of feed off of each other, all these tools. But again, the fear is in the quaking aspen of not first going to be grounded, and then it's going to feed everything, right? It's going to stop the curiosity. Expand your reasonings for inquiring. I'm asking you about your assumptions because how did you arrive at this view? Are you looking at data I haven't seen? Have you considered other ways of seeing? This is a big part of the organizational development work that I do in career coaching and that you have with some of your clients when you do career coaching, is we really get into this inquiry piece of being a leader, of helping people think together and have to illustrate with data. And it doesn't matter where they are in the org chart, you in any meeting can start asking these questions, and boy, you're going to look like a leader.
Well, what was really resonating with me too about is how this can be applied to solve problems in our society. And one of the biggest problems they say in our society right now is our ability to understand what other people actually think. Right? I was listening to the scientist that talks about the separation of what you think versus what you think other people think, and how that can alter your choices, and how instead of making these unhealthy assumptions that are actually distorting, and we're probably going into the wrong direction because we aren't actually connecting and truly understanding where people want to go. And I think that's the running away from the assumption and going to the inquiry, asking the questions. So there's a major aspect of the right doesn't understand why the left believes what they believe. The left doesn't understand why the right believes what they believe. And a lot of it is because of this self-sealing instead of going to inquiry and actually having a conversation about what they see as the problem and how they see it being solved.
So Riley, what I'm hearing you say is it seems like it used to be liberals and conservatives just had different points of view. And they're like, oh, I just don't agree with that. Now it's at the point where I can't understand in any universe why you would ever think that. I couldn't get into your mind, your thought process, sit with you, listen, and understand why you think what you do is more of the norm.
Because of how our brains work, what we desire and what we think other people desire aren't usually the same thing, even if they are, right? And so we can distort what is best for others because we think we know what's better for others. Instead of being humble, being curious, and asking questions, we go to assumption and project our knowledge that is really a lack of knowledge, but because we want to be separate, superior, and a leader, we will project these things onto people like, oh, well, I know what these people are thinking, and this is where they're going wrong, instead of actually asking them the questions.
Which is a development model,
right? And
which is an infinity loop model.
And when you ask the questions, it creates the environment for someone to change their point of view. Right? If you are projecting and telling someone how they feel or how they think about something, they then feel the need to defend it because you're attacking them instead of asking them questions of, well, why do you feel this way? What data do you have? Now makes them even have to present it and question why they believe it as well.
The lecture way of parenting and convincing and influencing is over.
Amen.
It's tired and it's ineffectual.
Because we're about empowering freedom, right? Well, it's all about freedom.
And it's helping people get at the root of their thought process. It's like, I was thinking one father was like, I just have all this wisdom I want to impart on my kid. And I'm like, yeah, the kid doesn't like it because it's a lecture. There's no inquiry. There's no self-discovery. There's just a monologue.
Be aware of unearned wisdom. As a father, want to give this wisdom to your son. But if you were to give it to your son and he not earn it, it's probably going to take him down a wrong path.
Oh, because he hasn't like almost integrated it because
Correct.
It didn't come from his own process.
Correct.
Almost seeing his shadow, his motives, his thoughts. It's like, it's too surfacey. Just don't do that. It's like, well, what's all the things that would lead you to do it anyway,
From
even
my
though
experience,
if you knew it was quote unquote wrong?
Well, if you don't learn the lesson of why you don't do something, you will do it in another form that in a lot of ways will cause you more pain and suffering.
That's the shadow, right?
It's the world is a constant opportunity to learn these beautiful lessons and wisdoms of life. And if you learn a hack that goes around it and don't actually learn the wisdom, you are setting yourself up. You're building your tree fort or your metaphoric temple, but you're building it on a structure that you don't truly understand. And so you maybe get to the top and you don't know how to operate it because this wisdom you achieved was unearned.
It's not going all the way down to the roots.
And I think that's how someone can go, oh, I have this wisdom to give to someone. And I think the way that you can share that wisdom but integrate it is by sharing the story and then following it up by questions. Because the questions are what solidify the understanding and is what can truly earn the wisdom. You don't necessarily have to go through the experience to earn that wisdom, but you need to be able to embody it and integrate it to earn that wisdom.
Question the story I'm telling myself about this person, situation. Is the story I'm telling myself, my assumptions, true? What am I missing? How does my version of the story make me feel? How is my story making me feel separate, superior, inferior, better, worse about myself? Stressed out, disturbed, angry, negative.
What I really like this is what my assumption is true. And it kind of goes back to the thing. It can be true and false at the same time. It can be true and go, okay, this is true, but my reaction to this isn't actually serving me or that person. So where
or connected to the bigger truth. Connected to the bigger truth that we are actually okay, or that we are actually loved, or we're not separated from love.
Or I love that the bigger truth might be that their response to you has nothing to do with you, but has to do with their child wound. Or, right? And so then you don't have to respond from your own wound or your own negativity, because you are able to see the bigger picture. You know, yes, they are being rude and degrading to me, and that is not acceptable. But I don't need to then be rude and degrading back to them in this form of defense. I can go, you might be going through a tough day today. I don't find it okay for you to talk to me that way. You know, whether we are at the workout or any relationship, we can express that, and then you can create the natural separation without making them bad or making yourself good. You just go, this is part of their journey. The question creates a healthy mirror for someone to see themselves. It's going, hey, you're not a bad person, but maybe you're doing something bad now.
What are some other possible stories that would point to contrary data? Would everyone else see it the same way?
And it's never, no one ever, we never all see things the same way. I mean, there's been millions of studies on this, on, you know, you take 100 people, show them the exact same thing, and they all see a bunch of different things that happen. So, you know, the mind is a very interesting thing, and I think that's why it becomes more and more important to not try and have your own individual reality, but embrace the collective reality.
And these thought models that were given to us by great thought leaders are so important to understand how the mind or the brain in the separate self is so blind. What would my life be without this story? That's a very Byron Katie teaching.
And I think that was kind of what I was referring to, of how is this story serving me or not serving me? We do. We tell ourselves stories all the time, whether they are good or bad. I'm not prepared for this, or I am so prepared that I'm going to crush it. Both of them can be true, but the story you tell yourself can become more true. I am struggling with this challenge in front of me, but I have accomplished this so many times, so I should embrace that. Even though this challenge is something I'm afraid of, I should let go of that fear, because I have proven over and over and over again that I can get over this challenge. And hey, if you don't, then there's a deeper lesson for you to learn, and you can deal with it when it happens. But sitting in fear of this challenge that is in front of you doesn't serve you. That, you know, there might be some truth of maybe you didn't study as much, maybe you aren't prepared as much as you should be for this challenge, but you're going to stand strong and ready to embrace it for what it is. You know, you don't run in fear, you don't allow the fear to take over and create the reality.
Yeah, that's so good, and create the reality. Woo!
And our reflection questions, when you're stuck out to you the biggest game changers.
Oh, what
when you
stuck out
take
to
the
you?
second look. Yeah, what stuck out to you? Yeah, the importance of what is the second look. And I mean, I think I emphasized the embracing of a collective reality and really trying to break this idea of our individual truth. To me, that's what I've gained the most from this second look.
Yeah, and I think people that really struggle with being judgmental, they're not in the second look. It doesn't mean that you are not discerning and honest. That's different than the judgmental, which is the final say, versus seeing a discernment and holding that space of being in that field with them. You don't need to keep inflaming it and being judgmental. The judgmental, you could feel it, because it's basically saying, when someone goes, they're very judgmental, it's inherent that they are projecting their shadow onto the other person and putting themselves as separate, superior, and important, and that they don't have a red pouch, and that they are not capable of the very thing that they are judging someone else. It's very different energy.
Right. So the final question is very much aligned to what you were kind of talking about, is how can you experience your disturbances, which may be valid and wise to register, right? So this is our discernment. It's important to have, but you can take the second look that puts you in the bigger mind and that can hold it all, gives greater awareness and not separate from respect and honoring one's humanity. So I would say it's, you have the discernment of someone is not treating you well, but maybe this is a business relationship and you need to foster the relationship and not blow it up, right? So you can't fully separate from them, but you also don't want to shame them. They might be bringing in money for you. So you are able to acknowledge how someone is treating you, and you go to questions instead of defending it or even shaming them for treating you poorly, of going, hey, you know, when you said this, it really made me feel this way. What was your objective?
Or I experienced it this way.
Right.
Because you know how I always get weird about that made me feel.
Thank you for that correction. I think that that's very true.
I experienced what you said to me this way. It did not feel good.
Right. And my assumption is that you think I'm doing a terrible job, or that I'm not adequate for this job, or whatever your assumption may be. And now you aren't attacking them, but you are giving them the opportunity to be aware of how they're being perceived and giving them an opportunity to adjust and reflect. And
when you do it in inquiry, is there something that you need to tell me? Is there something I need to correct?
It empowers.
Is there some other anger that you have about my performance that's coming out right now?
So good. It empowers all parties to bring up anything that might be bothering them in a way that isn't attacking, right? It's a we are genuinely trying to all be better at whatever objective we're trying to achieve. And if we can create the environment that fosters that growth in all of us, we become more emotionally regulated, and we are able to accomplish more physically together.
And that's it, because when you feel the disturbance, it's the connection, awareness, and inquiry. You connect to yourself and your heart and connect to the other person. And what comes out of your mouth next is coming from connection, not just from this ego separate energy. You have self-awareness of your own disturbance, of your own physiology, your own ego mind. And then the inquiry comes and drops in from there. And that's the tool, that's the discipline, that's the skill, becomes our spiritual practice, is connection, awareness, and inquiry, that we're then, all the questions that come out of that is creating more awareness in them. Hey, is there something that I need to know? Is there something that's bothering you? And is there something I'm not seeing? And you're able to do that because in the connection, you're back to the Aspen. You're going, I'm okay. My ego can handle what this person's going to say.
I can take the criticism.
Because I'm actually a whole frickin' forest of Aspen. And I'm thinking about it almost like a John Denver song. It's like you're the eagle and you're flying over the whole forest of aspens. And that's actually the energy that you can see in the contemplative mind. And you see, even in this struggle, the beauty and the love, because its divine presence is there in our human experience.
And I'll just want to end with this little statement of, together we accomplish more. Whether it's in the physical or the emotional, or the spiritual, together we accomplish more. And that is ultimately what the communication of the Infinity Loop is about bringing us together, because nothing is unsolvable when we are connected. Have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless.